What's up, everybody? Merry Christmas. I figure everybody's already heard how Christmas is a pagan holiday and the unbelievable origins of Santa Claus about a million times. So I'm going to do something a little different here, and we'll do the Christmas Light special. But if you do want to hear about the origins of some of our crazy Christmas traditions, you can go back around this time last year and hear all about it. I want to start off with saying this. If your idea of Christmas is the birth of Jesus and the three wise men and the star over Bethlehem, don't let some idiot YouTube channel run that for you. Wow, big surprise that almost all cultures have a celebration around the winter solstice. That doesn't mean that you're celebrating for the same reason that somebody else is. Let's say some new sect pops up and decides to start worshiping Baphomet on Easter Day. Are you going to stop celebrating Easter? No, of course not. Does that mean that you're worshiping Baphomet? No, of course not. So look, I know if you're still watching this channel after this year, you're not exactly a traditionalist, but I've read the comments on more traditional channels and there's people genuinely concerned about this, and don't be. Christmas is what you make it out to be in your heart. So I hope everybody has a great one. Merry Christmas. From me and Ruckus, but he's kind of got the rainy morning blues. So it's been a while since we talked about the aerial phenomena and crazy stuff that's happened in our skies. But once I learned about all of that, and I've had quite a few comments on this, it makes me wonder about the origins of Hanukkah, the festival of lights that's happening tonight this year. Well, starting tonight this year, but it varies. They use a different luni-solar calendar than us. The simple, straightforward explanation of this is that during the Maccabean revolt, they were rededicating the temple and only had a one-day supply of oil for the lights, but it miraculously lasted for 8 days. And it just dawned on me, they have a lot of celebrations for past conflicts. Purim is saving them from annihilation. Passover, offing all the firstborn of Egypt and then taking everybody's gold out into the desert. Hanukkah, running Antiochus out of town. Tish B'Av, the 9th of Av, the destruction of the temples. Everybody just picks on them for no reason, and they're keeping score. read the Babylonian Holy Book or the Book of Judges. They were great neighbors. They still are. Just ask these guys to the east or these guys to the north or Egypt in the south back in the 60s. You know, if I was Jordan, I'd be whittling spears and stacking rocks right now. But yeah, the book of Judges was all about if you make Yahweh happy, then he'll bless you and make you strong enough to conquer and take everybody captive. Oh, it's going to be one of those Christmas videos, I see. But yeah, Hanukkah, the Festival of Lights, is supposed to be about the rededication of the temple around the 2nd century BC. But they already had the menorah. So this is a symbol of something that is much older. And like I and others in the comments have speculated, it could have astronomical origins, as in they saw that stuff in the sky. It is the Festival of Lights, after all, not a light like kept burning in the temple. But this petroglyph was found up in Siberia. They date it to 5000 BC, whatever. And the author of this paper agrees that this is astronomical imagery. We'll get to his in a minute. The first thing I notice about this is the Squatter Man. If we ignore the 7 heads for a minute, it looks a lot like the body on Squatter Man. These petroglyphs are found all around the world, and sometimes the hands are up, down, out, but they always have those 2 dots on the sides, which is kind of where his hands are. And that purpley glowing image up on the left is plasma produced in lab experiments, so it forms this shape. I guess if you're new here, you should understand that the world has experienced multiple cataclysmic annihilations. Some of these are world age ending events, and then, some of them kind of seem to come on and fizzle out from what I can tell. Those would be like the weaker grand solar minimums, the little ice age, as opposed to the younger Dryas world age ending event. And there seems to be aerial phenomena associated with all of these, which we'll get into more of those here in a little bit. Back to this picture, the disc with a cross in it is the sun symbol, and a variation of that is the SWAT sticker that I'm not going to show. I got hit for that symbol being carved into a stone cornice on a building. Anyway, these are found all throughout Europe, Asia. But here's another thing that I noticed. See all the little googly eye monsters on the left there in the bottom? Well, those remind me of what I saw out in Anza Desert at they don't even have a road going back to this one. They don't want the tourists coming back to see this. But you got these strange figures, and they are just opposite of all of these obvious astronomical symbols. And then you see this musical note looking thing that looks like two of the European sun symbols on there. But here's the deal. You've got this and these on a cave, and they confidently date this to the 1300s, back in the 1300s cycle that I always talk about. And then you've got this over in Siberia, 5000 BC. So it could be that this is all the same event, or it could be that the same thing has happened multiple times. But as much as they've screwed with the timeline, I don't know. Siberia and Anza, which is Southern California, seem like opposite sides of the world. But when you look at it from this perspective, we all see the same sky. And it doesn't matter what model you use, this is still the lay of the land. We all see the pole star. This time of year, we all see Orion floating across the sky. Everybody's seeing the same sky. And evidently they were seeing something like this. And people found it significant enough to start drawing it, carving it into rocks. So is that a warning to future generations, or were they just that impressed with the lights? Now, as to the seven-headed aspect of this is found all around the world too. In Hinduism, the goddess Manasa is depicted with 7 cobras behind her head. She is a fertility goddess associated with Virgo, if that has any relevance to this. In Sumerian, there's a 7-headed serpent known as Masmuhu. In Greek mythology, Hercules slays the 7-headed Hydra. Hydra meaning water, and snakes and dragons were guardians of the water. The Aztec fertility goddess, Chicamucatl, meaning 7 snakes, was a mother goddess that used the sun as a shield. Wow, and look at the shield. It's the exact same thing as you have in Siberia. This is Mexico. And that's 2 fertility goddesses associated with 7-headed creatures. Now, she's using the sun as a shield. Another Aztec god is Huitzilopochtli, who wields the fire serpent. So all of their stuff is astronomical in nature. And Huitzilopochtli would sling fire serpents at Earth, which in another language would be called the seraphim, literally the fire serpent. So I'm sure all of these serpent references are just purely coincidental, as well as the 7 heads. But back to the sun shield, he writes, you may wonder why it looks like a cross with 4 dots. The answer may be found in Hindu mythology, the Samudra Manthan, the churning of the ocean. In short, this episode depicts the creation of the universe. The benevolent and malevolent deities were using a snake god, Vasuki, again with the serpents, to rotate the axis Mundi, which is the world tree, and to churn the milk, the Milky Way, to create the nectar of immortality. Constellation Hydra, stretching for over 100 degrees on the sky, was the longest constellation known to the ancients. It is therefore not surprising that precisely the snake moves the axis Mundi. I'm going to go and know something threw the whole heavens off kilter. Jupiter attacked Kronos. According to the legend, after the churning was finished, the 4 drops of the nectar were split in 4 different places in India. These 4 cities became pilgrimage sites for this religious festival known as Kumbh Mela. The dates for this are not fixed. They depend on the position of the sun, the moon, and Jupiter. So that's a lot of stuff that all ties together, even the world tree. Are they indicating here that the sun has shifted positions over the axis Mundi? Or does it harken back even further to Saturn being our first sun? I kind of think this is a more recent event, and like I said, there's been many of these. But this is 7 heads, and the menorah is 9. And I guess this shows how traditions can change, because originally it did have 7, according to this, but now it has 9, representing the 8 days of Hanukkah and the single day's worth of oil. And just when you think you've covered everything interesting about a candlestick, oh no, there's more. First off, this was some graffiti back before spray paint that was found close to the Temple Mount, and it only shows 5 branches. And I can't ever talk about a menorah without bringing up the Arch of Titus, or the Arches of Titus, which is extremely odd. They usually only made 1 triumphal arch. And in the Middle Ages, nobody knew what Moses' candlestick looked like. It was thanks to this arch that it became a template for the emblem of Yeezy. On here is a frieze depicting Titus and his conquest after the revolt of 79 AD. You see the big, huge golden menorah there. But what they have in the depiction here is those are all Hebrews. Over here, that's Titus, I believe, but the rest of them are all wearing the headbands of the Hebrews. What I'm seeing here is not the Roman soldiers carrying off the treasures, but it could be that they made them carry everything. So that's just one of the strange details here. Another one is if you stand back and look at this, yeah, if I didn't know any better, it looked like this was cut out of wherever it originally was carved. But they do have an answer for that and say that in the Middle Ages, they added another level to it and converted it into a fortified tower. Now, the two holes chiseled out at the top, I could see that being cut out to slide some beams in, but all across the bottom there, that's just where somebody just unceremoniously hacked away at this thing. So that's odd. And then a few years ago, they found a second arch to Titus, where archaeologists could not recall another case of two arches being built to celebrate the same victory. So how do they explain this anomaly? He may have felt the need to consolidate his power by latching on to the glorious past of his predecessors. Yeah. What I think is this is the original submerged, and I've read several times the accounts of the water being over the city walls in Rome. So this one, as well as half the city, got knocked out. And this one was built in the Middle Ages, and they've changed their story over the years about how old it is. Because this Arch of Titus provided a model for many arches built after the 16th century. That just happens to be the same time they decided to remodel this into a fortified tower. You see how this has one single arch? Well, the real ancient arches have 3 arches. Now, I don't know if all of them did, but this is the Arch of Septimus Severus. This is the Arch of Constantine. But like they said, this became the template for all the arches built after the 16th century, like the Arc de Triomphe, because it was built in the 16th century. So yeah, there's some funny business going on with the Arch of Titus. And like I said, in the Middle Ages, they didn't even know what the candlestick looked like. But there are written descriptions with says it has 7 heads or whatever, so it's not that difficult. So there you have it. I think this ties in with a lot more than just the Maccabean revolt. And if you made it this far, I bet you'll never watch another 13-minute video on a candlestick. But there you have it. Hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, and I will catch you on the next one. Static out.